2 new followers. That's what's up. I'm at 4,100 followers on Instagram. Can't wait to hit that 5,000 mark. I might give away a free piece of art for every time I get 1,000 followers or subscribers to any of my social media. I try to give back just for everybody following me and promoting my art and education. Just checking some emails real quick. Oh, here's a good one. From Free Indie Folk Art Youth Workshop. So I'm a part of the... Yo, what up? All the way from Pennsylvania? That's what's up, cause I'm in PA too. I became a member of the Wyoming Valley Art League, and they have lots of programs going on. Hopefully I'll be able to show some stuff at their gallery sometime soon. Palmer, what city are you in? Thank you. Appreciate that. I gotta do something about that smoke detector. Jeez. Alright, I'm about to play my homies, some of my homeboy music, some original beats. Pittsburgh, you way over there. What's up, bro? How you doing, man? I'm in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Just got off. Now it's time to chill, yeah. It's time to smoke and build, yeah. We ain't got no time to kill. I'm only trying to feel all the good vibes inside to help me stay alive. So every time I try to spit this rhyme, I just intertwine, let it into my mind, and then hit rewind and think about a better time when it was fun and games. But I can't complain, cause y'all know my name. It's T-R-A-P, and that shit still just... Oh, I lost it, the beat too slow. Yeah. That's not the one I thought it was. This that Conquest. This beat right here hard. This that hard beat. I'll be chilling with my homie. Not this weekend coming, but next weekend. My man who made these beats from he live in New York. I'll be over there chilling with him. Yeah, that beat was hot though. All his stuff hot, yo. I really took that heat, but I try to put it away and pick up a brush. Now let me find something else better to discuss, like how can I raise my kids and teach them how to live in this crazy ass world of shit, because things getting crazier, the AI gonna take over, so I'm blaming you. That's the corporate situation, yeah, I'm framing you and put it in a picture. Look right here, man, yeah, that's that Mr. Prince. They call him that because I made it simple like fingerprints, and I can spit it off right the tip, and I don't need a rhyme, I just write with. I keep losing. sucker for the horns, yeah, and you might get scorned, man. You know that page got torn cause I ripped it out the book, cause that shit was really boring. Trying to teach me all this bullshit, I needed to learn something better. So I got a full clip and I spit right through your sweater. And any weather, man, it gets cold, but I still stay on my P's and Q's, cause I'm bold. That mean I got an ego, so let me see how far I can release when it go. Can I kill a beat like free throws, man? Cause we know, Alright, cross that. And hit the like button, no frontin'. You know you love it. Art and education ain't nothing above it. Ooh. And I'm spitting like a madman. I had the blocks then. You was sad, man. They call me Bag Man. And that's the TRAP. Trapping in my blood, yeah, you know that shit's me. The lines coming along nicely. It looks like a picket fence, you know, it looks like railings. It looked like it's supposed to look. I just gotta tighten up some lines a little bit more, work on them colors a little bit more, get those shadows to look like shadows. It's the hardest part. Especially just like the pickets, really, that shit just 50 shades of gray, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not a lot of different colors I can throw in there to help out with the perspective, so you just got to keep blending them grays, make it a little darker, make it a little lighter, add some more white, add some more black. Every once in a while I put a little bit of brown or some Naples yellow in there, because you got the sunlight, and the sunlight actually gives off a color, so you got to have that refraction in there. Yo, what's up everybody? Oh, let me pull it a little close, see the details in the face. Now I'm working on a second layer of paint, so it's still taking me a while to get through this second layer, but even though it's starting to look nice, I'm still going to paint this entire canvas at least one more time, and put that third layer of paint on there to make sure these skin tones really blend, so that it looks more realistic. It looks pretty good right now, but I know me, I can make it look better. I'm just saying. You know, his uniform still has one layer of paint, so I'm gonna come back over this probably after I finish this set of tickets back here. I'm gonna hop into some blues. I might even hop into some blues right now, fuck it, while I'm at it, and start adding some highlights to the uniform, detailing his name tag and the company name on his shirt. But there, like I said, there's still a good bit of the canvas that only has one layer of paint that I'm still trying to work my way through. The majority of it is underneath this railing, so from his hands down, like, this is still one layer of paint. That's why you can tell the difference between some of the detailing in the rocking chair here, and then the detailing just drops off when you look in between the pickets. There's a flower pot here, there's another set of flower pots here that aren't really detailed yet. There's another little flower pot that's sitting back here that actually has a plant in it. So there's a lot of different contrasts and a lot of different little things going on. So I'm trying to work on that part last, because I'm going to be there for a minute. Then you got to get the wood grains and the stairs. So, oh, and yo, if y'all on Instagram, yo, go to my Instagram, Paintings by the Prince. All my links, Paint by the Prince. Y'all can see it at the bottom of the screen. And check out some of the videos I've been posting. I'm gonna go grab this piece of art that I did, yo. For the past 10 weeks, I've been a part of a iron sculpting class. Well, not sculpting, but it's just ironworking. It's called the Keystone Ironworks. We take classes at Marywood University in Scranton. We've been working on projects for the past 10 weeks. This past weekend, we actually went out to the historical Scranton iron furnaces, and we had piles and piles of smashed up iron. Most of it was old radiators, and we put it in the furnace and melted it down and got some molten hot iron, and we cast it. We pour iron into all our molds that we casted for the projects we did. And so me just liking, you know me, education and history. So we all know that the Sphinx of the Giza Plateau does not have a nose on it because Napoleon blasted the nose off with a cannon. There's a lot of speculations of why some of the noses of the edifices in Egypt have been destroyed or defaced, and some people think that it's because the noses of the temple builders were more negroid and wide like my nose, and not like a aquiline, like pointed nose like a European. And so, in order to hide the fact that some of these great sculptors, architects, engineers were actually black Africans, they scrubbed the noses off so you can't really tell the phenotype. So my project was I did my rendition of the Sphinx with a nose on it, which is a black man's nose. So I made a mold out of clay and then set it in sand to create the physical mold, and then pulled the clay out. And then we went out there and we poured hot iron into the mold. You break the mold open, and now you got your iron. Your end result is like a metal piece of artwork. Mine's downstairs. I'm gonna bring it up here real quick and let y'all see how that shit look. I gotta finish buffing it though. We went to the studio today, to the workshop, and kind of cleaned them up a little bit. But it still has some work that I can do to it. Yo, this is solid. This is a solid piece of iron, yeah. Like, bro, this thing probably weighs like, that's probably like 25 pounds, 30 pounds almost. This little thing is heavy as hell. Yeah, but that's fucking solid iron. And let me tell you something. Making the face out of clay is way different than painting a face. So y'all know I love painting people. So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna just do a face with clay. Man, that shit was so damn hard. And then it still looked kind of cheesy a little bit. But it didn't turn out too bad. Not for my first time molding some shit. Got the headdress with the cobra on it. And so what we did today was, it comes out really rough. And then there's ports where you pour the iron. So like where the iron goes into the mold, of course it's a solid piece of iron that was sticking up where we had to pour it in there. So you had to chop that little bar off and like grind down all like the sharp edges. So we was in the shop just grinding, getting our grinders and grinding shit down. I gotta put this shit down, yo. I feel like I'm about to just start lifting weights, yo. Like, fuck it. Sitting here holding this shit this long. My little Sphinx with the African man nose. That shit still got like iron dust on it. Yo, that shit hot, right? Yeah, that shit hot, son. Yo, some of the other kids did some really extra cool shit too. This one girl, she made a Kirby for the video game character Kirby. Yo, it looked just like Kirby. Then this other girl, she made like this little squirrel, right? The squirrel's laying on his back, and it has this tail curl between his legs. And it's just like a pile of fucking acorns. You don't really see his body. It's just like this squirrel laying in a pile of fucking acorns with a little grin on his face. Yeah, and then somebody else did like a fucking Medusa. Somebody did this fucking cool ass hand, like holding a heart, yo. Like that shit was big and heavy as hell too. Then this one dude, he made a fucking fish. This other guy made like this a big ass Star Trek emblem, like the Star Trek
emblem, the logo, what they wear on their uniforms, yo, I was like, yo, motherfuckers coming up with some cool ass shit. Then this other dude, yo, he made these fucking bows. Oh my god, yo, like these little bows, but like the detailing he had on it, one of them shits had a snake. It looked like some old shit, King Pharaoh type shit. And I swear I'm gonna copy that shit, because next year when we do this shit again, I'm making me a goblet. I'm gonna make the motherfucking what's that? What they call that shit? The goblet that Jesus supposed to drink the wine from at the Last Supper, yo. I'm gonna make that shit out of iron. This shit might be on my Instagram. Let me see. The chalice, yes sir. That's what it is. The Holy Grail. I don't know why I can't, but the Holy Grail is, some people think it is a chalice, and that's the same thing. But yeah, the Holy Grail. And I read fucking Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, and I don't know why I can't think of the Holy Grail just now. Holy Grail, Holy Blood. Yeah, that boy. Yeah, I did this. This was just early. This was 3 hours ago. Like, as soon as I got off work, we had to go to the fucking shop and get this shit done, man. Grinding. I love learning shit. I love doing new shit, yo. That shit was, I ain't gonna lie, yo. It was so much fun doing that stuff, yo. So much fun. Like, I would have paid to do that. Honestly, if they're like, oh, we're gonna charge you like $150. Like, all right, I'll pay to do that. You gonna let me pour some what? Some hot iron? I get to pour iron? Man, let me do that. I was scared as hell at first. I ain't even gonna lie, yo. This shit is 2,000 degrees. It's molten. It's liquid iron. Yo, if that shit touch you done, son. You done. That shit worse than hot grits. But it was like a big ass adrenaline rush doing that shit.
You want some of this?
Maybe. It was a big ass adrenaline rush. Alright, it is after work. I got it. It's already 8. I don't have to cook. I'm eating leftovers. I made that beef stew last night. Oh my god, bro. That shit was so bomb. I ain't even gonna lie to you, bro. Like, and it's not because I cooked it. It's just because that shit came out like it was supposed to. Damn, that shit been delicious. I ain't even gonna lie, yo. I made enough of that shit, so I ain't gotta cook dinner. So I'm gonna hit these paints for like an hour or so. Y'all know I've been on this atheist experience for a long ass time. Honestly, I can't get off this shit. I just love listening to these debates. So you probably listen to some atheist experience. I wanna I don't know. Let me play my homeboy track real quick. My man Ox from Maryland. If y'all don't know about him, y'all gotta get up on him, man. AUXXK. Let me get a soda right there.
around looking serious. You out there with putting fury. You second guessing, I'm done with it. With this ain't no coming back. Sorry, nigga, no running back. Now we ain't no heart attack. Now we see where your heart is at. Treat your bitch like a quarter cup. Fuck your bitch like a pussy. Keep a bitch like a man. Can't say good to that damage. Hey, you try to like Roger. Keep my side as a brother. Keep my shit like 1,000. Contemplation, I walk on the moon like the red. Gave a fuck what they call it. I got my on the table. Niggas told me that things and I told them it never matter. I gotta get it regardless. Beating good in the budget. I told my niggas no fuck. Project to get you bust that. My niggas shot on the helmet. They put us with it like Bill. Got me feeling like Taylor. I think I fucking feeling. Or shit with a feeling. This ain't a sketchy movie. Right all over my face. Cause you niggas know it. If you see it, you got it. Blessing enough for the fucking bitch. And I gotta get to the kitchen. Flip these verses like else. I ain't selling no down. You know it's like a rifle. I ain't doing no time. Man, these niggas too critical. Not in my design. Gotta get with a work. Get stuck in that spot. Need a day while you talk. Busy choking no lines. Now we done with the questions. Let me hit you with something. Always thought it'd be simple until we got to this level. And then they said my name. Got me grabbing my shovel. I'm low, not seven heaven. Watch I'm on my devastation. Watch you use my presentation. Get bloody when niggas faking. Too risky to fuck with, baby. Too risky to fuck with, baby. Beast from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast. Ain't no place for the weak. Beast from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast. Ain't no place for the weak. Beast from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast. Ain't no place for the weak. Beast from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast. Ain't no place for the weak.
She's not done. I stopped working on her to work on this. That's a painting for me. I'll have that painting for 6 years before somebody probably wanted to buy it. But this painting is a commission. I already got a deposit for it. So once somebody gives me money to do a project for them, I just stop my own personal projects and work on the paid commission. So I stopped that like halfway through the second layer. So if you look close, you can the light in here is terrible, but her face and her arm looks really different from her shoulder and her torso. You can still see like the bold brush strokes and like the bland color, but her face, her eyes, and her hand, I did apply a second layer of paint. And so I was starting to work on her neck and around the necklace that she's wearing, and then do her torso. And that's when I got the call to do this other painting, so I just dropped this. But as soon as I get done with the one on the easel, I'll pop this one back up there, and hopefully I'll be able to have some more photos by then. I got a couple of models lined up, got some more ideas I'm thinking about working on. I just want to get some more stuff on canvas. And so when I am finished with this commission, I'll have like 2 or 3 other projects lined up for myself to start working on. I got a lot more shows coming up this year. I actually have a show coming up at the end of the month on the 30th. I'm already scheduled for something for, it's weird, like I got a show on the last week of the month, and then the first week of July, I'm already set up for a show. And like this year has been a really busy year, so a lot of my art has been out and in circulation in different places, so people have been seeing it. But I definitely want to keep producing more new art, so later in the year I can continue to have more shows with stuff that people haven't seen already. But it's a good thing, because some of my stuff has only been in like one location for 1 month at a time, especially my reader series. So I'm really trying to expose more people to my reader series. So anytime I get an invitation to go somewhere new for the first time, I always throw my reader series up in there. And I'm already scheduled for something for December, and I have 2 other opportunities to show somewhere. I just need to communicate with the galleries. From my last show alone, I had 3 people offer me some slots this year. And it was like, oh, your stuff is so nice. Do you want to show at our place? You can show here. And it's like, all right, I'll call you. And I only called one of them so far, so I still have the other 2 people to connect with. But I just keep getting more stuff coming up. So I like being this busy. I'm always busy now. which is a good thing.
Walk out the crib when I whip out the blade. Niggas hold to the station, wait till you gon' be station. Bloody when niggas fake it. The risky don't fuck with baby. The risky don't fuck with baby. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the beast, ain't no place for the weak. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the beast, ain't no place for the weak. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the beast, ain't no place for the weak. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the beast, ain't no place for the weak. Say your press for you walk out the crib when I whip out the blade. And in cage of his wit, I'm the stealer. I hope little shorty go choke in the back of the whip, in the back of a throat. Absolutely the coldest, the bumps to the highest. I'm smoking the finest, the back was ignited. It's forfeit my diet, just call me Lil Ryan. Too late for apologies, watch how you speak to a guy. Voices whisper to me, asking all these questions. All I feel is tension, squeeze your melon like a lemon. No, I ain't shit. I'll probably blow your speakers. I'll probably blow your brain while I chill with Mary Jane. See, I gotta fucking go with this get it. This is the shit you remember if you used to sleep on the seven. And when the body gets dropping, there ain't no room for the lows and there ain't no room for the stopping. Because I'm going like Golden did it. Think I can call it, but shit keep changing and changing. But I ain't coming for closure. I came to tell you it's over. Feel like struggle and grind, feel like struggle and mine. We're not here for the friendly, just know that seven get deadly. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast, you get cold for the free. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast, you get cold for the free. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast, you get froze for the free. Beats from the east and I don't come in peace. Bring your soul to the feast, you get froze for the free.
Alright, my man's in them killed that shit. That shit was and that run. Okay, I love this whole album, but let me see. I'm gonna say my favorite tracks. Number 3, Not the Same. Yo, that shit is hot. Not the Same, Run, and East. I think they're my favorite 3 songs on this album. I got like 4 of his albums, yo. He be going in, yo. We are not the same, nope. We ain't got the same flow. We ain't got the same hoes.
I never be sipping Panda, that's 7-Eleven coffee, be perfect in every season. That resurrection on G, you never seen that shit coming. Keep smoking like locomotive, pound my straight gas. Now we back with the quota, beat the footage. I know that you walking all the stacks and I'm smoking. I get lit, smoking in every city. Calling my niggas stitches, you rolling up KDs. Tell me you cannot hit this, smoking that great gas. Falling my niggas 50, rocking this to begin. Focus colder than vintage. I don't care if they give me, you niggas gotta be killing. Been killing since the beginning. We're winning the right that hit it. Niggas just playing bitter, pull up like 18. Running from nothing, nigga. We are not the same, no. We are not the same. We are not the same, bro. We ain't got the same, bro. We ain't got the same, bro. We are not the same, bro. In the drop top, hey, know that I'm looking so damn clean. Show you some sugar like candy. Pull up to her, she like damn. Me, smoking in every city. I'm drinking so we can hear it. You tripping, I go delirious, steady my deck committee. Cause now when I come off 50, I swear I don't feel like 50 shit. You read, get the dance, no cash, and get the party. Sam, we roll pants and I love when my bitch is dirty. My mind is so full of cats, must ride. It's got dirty, she money, she got the garden, got bullets, and I'm personal. Now my dog personal, oxen, kill the personal. She got me slipping that candy. She don't need me, don't know. Sliding up pussy like hot grease. No, not a relic, I stand. She's perfect, the only thing lacking. Murder my liver, that bad thing. Sip the codeine, need a new sleep. Only say facts when I'm rapping. We are not the same, no. We are not the same. We are not the same, no. We are not the same.
Only spit facts when I'm rapping. Yo, my man go in on this track, yo, man. He just be killing them things, man. In a drop top, V. No, I be looking so damn clean. We are not the same, no. We ain't got the same flow. Run that one back, bro. I definitely will. And I done turned it off, but hey, yo, that's my workout track. Yo, I ain't even gonna lie, not the same. I'll run that one back. That shit hard, bro. I'll be in there doing some squats and banging this right here.
Keep smoking like I'm pound my straight gas. Now we back with the quota. Beat the footage, I load it. You walking all on the session of smoking. I get lit. Smoking in every city. Calling my niggas stitches. You rolling up KDs. Something you cannot hit this. Smoking that great cat. Party my niggas stripping. Running this to begin. Focus coded in bitch. I don't care if they give me. You niggas gotta be killing. Been killing since the beginning. Willing to write that hit. Niggas just playing bitch. Pull up like 18. Running from nothing, niggas. We are not the same. No, we are not the same. We are not the same, bro. We ain't got the same, bro. We ain't got the same, bro. We are not the same, bro. In the drop top, hey, know that I'm looking so damn clean. Show you some sugar like candy. Pull up to her, she like damn. Me, smoking in every city. I'm drinking so we can hear it. You tripping, I go delirious, steady my deck committee. Cause now when I come off 50, I swear I don't kill like 50 shit. You read, get the dance, no cash, and get the party. Personal option, kill the first one. Shawty got me slipping in the can. B, she don't need me, don't know. Read, sliding up pussy like hot grease. No, not a rally, that's that. Jeez, perfect, the only thing like king. Murder my liver, that man. D, sip the codeine, need a new sleep. Only say facts when I'm at. Hey, we are not the same, no. We are not the same. We are not the same, no. We are not the same.
My man Ox, yo, he a young boy. He the big homie, but he a young boy. He gotta be in
Don't know the bitch and they fucking with that. Rockin' my shrimp and they feeling like that. Never been able with that from my step. Power I'm not sure feeling like that. King with the money but never they know. Niggas be talking but that's how I go. Some niggas talking the rip on the boat. Niggas be saying they hard as so cold. Up in the end, I love the pieces. Up in my piece, but there's always my shot. But fucking them here was looking at that. That nigga was good. They got their rolling, they popping no money. Back with he putting they fucking too bad. Fuck that shit, putting they quit with the bitch. They with the case, so nigga get with it. They got it shooting my nigga. But fucking them here was looking at that. That nigga was good. They got their rolling, they popping no money.
I took that blood and I hit it and looking at death like nigga was good. Yeah, my man be killing these damn things. Let me bring that back for the top, yo. This motherfucker be going fast on this shit, yo.
Don't know the bitch and they fucking with that. Rockin' my shrimp and they feeling like that. Never been able with that from my step. Power I'm not sure feeling like that. King with the money but never they know. Niggas be talking but that's how I go. Some niggas talking the rip on the boat. Niggas be saying they hard as so cold. Up in the end, I love the pieces. Up in my piece, but there's always my shot. But fucking them here was looking at that. That nigga was good. They got their rolling, they popping no money. Back with he putting they fucking too bad. Fuck that shit, putting they quit with the bitch. They with the case, so nigga get with it. They got it shooting my niggas up in the get. Lady that nigga, but they niggas with it. Bodies get holy, you're speaking of shitty. I let you know, you're not afraid of me. I got a bullet, I really can feel it. Bitch, I'm a god, it's nothing to bullet. Give me receipt for a bed with a bitch. They missing, it got that nigga. Never keep spinning when I'm at that spinning. I make a raise, they looking to finish. So how with my niggas, they done to a minute. You pussy, these little script up in the get it. Did it better, so I better have it. Me never tapping that 7 to rest of it. Give me you precious. Let it bleed, yeah. Turn up my collar, cause this is my collar. Turn up the pussy, come out the water. There was the melody, jealous, keep falling. Right with the head, my number, they calling. I see how they try, these numbers keep falling. They send it, you're running, I feel it, take over, embracing my diamonds on road. Cause I'm slow when they carry my bitch, so I think I'm the chosen. The top of a river, always on edge. Shit that push me is worth it, notorious. Let it bleed, yeah. Let it bleed, yeah. Let it bleed, yeah. shooting that leg, see it, I'm talking this stuff. Phonies are jumping the clock, now I'm just rising like clock. Now they gon' bring me the pop, cause it was never a problem. You better be shooting that leg, see it, I'm talking this stuff. Phonies are jumping the clock, now I'm just rising like clock. Now they gon' bring me that pop, cause it was never a problem. Phonies are jumping the clock, now I'm just rising like clock. Now they gon' bring me that pop, cause it was never a problem.
I don't want to stop listening to the album. I'm out to let this shit ride out. I started cleaning the house.
Moving this money and knowing they fucking pushing when they in anxiety, fucking with these pills. So I'm feeling up and
Yo, my man's style just crazy, yo. Like, I really like this shit, yo. I got a bunch of his old shit saved on my own job. Alright. Let it bleed, let it bleed, let it bleed, yeah.
To at least acknowledge that all of the scientific evidence points to an Earth that is vastly older than 6,000 to 10,000 years old?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay, so how do you
It doesn't
reconcile...
prove there's no God.
Yeah, you're right. Did I say it did? I'm not saying that proves there's no God. What I'm saying is, here's something we've learned about the universe, and it doesn't match with your literal view of the Bible. Now, there's a conflict there, and we need to resolve that. And some people resolve it in favor of the Bible, saying the Bible is absolutely right, and ignore whatever actual evidence is presented there. I find that to be patently absurd because it turns Christianity into a self-contradictory proposition, which is, and so, by the way, does the entire idea of a revelation in the New Testament. Because your position, to the extent that I understand it, because you haven't got a kind of a straight answer yet, is one where there is a God who has an important message for mankind. And somehow, he only reveals it to certain individuals who then write this down, and thousands of years after this initial revelation, we have to rely on copies of translations of copies by anonymous authors with no originals, and a textual testimony to a miracle, for example, the loaves and fishes. There's no amount of reports, anecdotal testimonial reports, that could be sufficient to justify believing that this event actually happened as reported. No amount. And anything that would qualify as a God would clearly understand this, and if it wanted to convey this information to people in a way that was believable, would not be relying on text to do so. And this, for me, is the nail in the coffin for Christianity. The God that Christians believe in is amazingly stupid if it wants to actually achieve its goal of spreading this information to humanity by relying on text, by relying on languages that die off, by relying on anecdotal testimony. That's not a pathway to truth. And anything that would qualify for a God should know this, which means either that God doesn't exist or it doesn't care enough about those people who understand the nature of evidence to actually present it. Now, which of those possibilities do you think is accurate?
I think you do need faith to believe it.
Sure. And why would you believe anything on faith? Faith isn't a pathway to truth. Every religion has some sort of faith. People take things on, if faith is your pathway, you can't distinguish between Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, any of these others. How is it that you use reason as a path to truth in every endeavor of your life, and then when it comes to the ultimate truth, the most important truth, you're saying that faith is required? And how does that reflect on a God who supposedly exists and wants you to have this information? What kind of God requires faith instead of evidence?
Well, I think you probably have faith about a lot of things too.
Like what? I have reasonable expectations based on evidence. I have trust that has been earned. I will grant trust tentatively. I don't have faith. Faith is the excuse people give for believing something when they don't have evidence. And I mean, if you can come up with something that I believe that I don't have evidence for, guess what I'll do? I'll stop believing it. That's the nature of a rational mind. That is the goal. My only goal was to be the best Christian I could be and represent this to people who didn't believe. And what I found, because I actually cared about whether or not my beliefs were true rather than whether they felt good, was that my beliefs weren't justified. Try as I might and pray as hard as I could. No answer comes. No evidence is forthcoming. And when I talk to people about this, the only answer they ever offer is the one you did, which is, well, you just got to have faith. Well, sorry, I don't. And not only I'm not sorry that I don't, I'm sorry for others that they think that I should have, because faith is not a virtue. Faith is gullibility. It's evidence that determines whether or not your perception of reality is reasonable and in conjunction with the world as it is.
Well, I think church gives a lot of people some community and some values.
You don't need church.
Sure. So what? That has no tie to the truth of the supernatural claims. Religions and churches have tons and tons of benefits for the in-group. And some of them even have benefits for some of the out-groups with, feeding the homeless. Although I really wish, as many of the atheists do, we have the Atheists Helping the Homeless group in Austin, where we will actually help the homeless without making them sit through a sermon first. We're not holding their sandwich ransom in the name of Jesus. That you can do, there's no good thing that a church or religion does that cannot be achieved by purely secular means. And there's no positive benefit of churches and religions that necessarily demonstrates the truth of their supernatural claims.
But there is, and this is my personal hobby horse today, there is a cost to deciding that you're going to take, in particular, Christianity on faith. And that is that when you run into folks like us who don't believe it, you are compelled. Decided to believe Christianity, you are compelled to think all kinds of horrific things about us, and tell us that, or come at us with these threats of eternal torment, which just draws an insurmountable line between us.
Yeah,
or we cannot be friends because of what you have decided to take on faith. That's the cost.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that divisive cost plays out not only in the previous caller who had to give up his job because of good-intentioned Christians, but I have a fiance sitting in the room who is essentially estranged from a good portion of her family who consider me to be the devil. Now, I may not be a perfect person, far from it, but I'm generally a good person and a caring person, and I do whatever I can to live the best life I can. I certainly am not, I guess if I was the devil, this is exactly what he would say, so who knows. But the absurdity of the divisive nature of Christianity in particular, and by the way, I'm an atheist with regard to all gods, but since you're kind of representing Christianity, it breaks my heart. People who actually understand what love is, people who actually understand what morality is, people who actually understand reality, it is almost unbearable to watch the people that you love be so absolutely duped into a divisive, hateful religion that they think is not divisive, they think it's inclusive, and they think it's positive. It kills me, and it's one of the reasons that I do this. Because I, for 25 plus years, believed this stuff. I am so happy that I no longer think that my former roommate is destined for hell. I am so happy that despite the fact that my relationship with my parents, the nature of it has changed, I don't have to worry about them. The division is entirely one-sided. I didn't end relationships when I became an atheist. Christians ended those relationships, and it was because their particular religion cannot tolerate. I had letters from people who said, we can no longer associate with you. You are of the devil. Now, it's possible that they're right. It's possible. I don't know under what circumstances. But the only way that you can demonstrate that is with reason and evidence and not faith. And I don't know how we can fix a world where people have been so convinced that they are doing the right thing, out of compassion and love and trying to help people when it is absolute poison, when it is absolutely destructive. I wish everybody could go through what I went through so they could have a proper understanding of, wow, how the heck could I have believed those things that I believed? And how much better life is when you want to deal with reality on reality's terms. I mean, I know that we didn't give you a huge opportunity to express your views, but every time I asked, I got kind of a dance. And I'm happy to have you call back in, but if your whole position is that the foundation of your belief is necessarily dependent on faith, then we got nothing to talk about, because I don't think that that's a good thing. And until you demonstrate that faith is a good thing, how could you possibly convince somebody? And by the way, how do you go about demonstrating that faith is a good thing without evidence? It all comes back to reason and evidence.
Thanks for the follow. Reason and evidence. Reason and evidence.
All right. I was going to give him the last word.
Yo, say that lattice work don't look real, son. Making that lattice work, cause I make that lattice work. I'm getting hungry now. Ooh, can we make it an hour and a half? Damn, I've only been here 47 minutes, and I've been talking for most of that time.
You know, I can't give any
All right, we got to go. Got the paint.
For God, but I feel like I think that there is a strong evidence that we can see by, I'm sure you guys have heard it, that we think God's thoughts after him. There's like this universal need for love, justice, order, peace, and basically it's just derivatives of his nature. And then
my nose is getting stuffy.
Because we're in the image of God.
Okay, so this is what you believe.
Yeah, we take on his likeness, so that's what I feel
Is God horny?
What was that?
Is God horny? Because I think horny thoughts, and if I'm thinking horny thoughts after God's likeness, does that mean that God's horny?
Well, I know, but you're referring to something that's a physical. Saying there's something deeper, the need for like how you love your wife or daughter or derivatives of his nature.
Sure. How could we know that? I know it's been said, and I know you believe it.
Well, we can see it. I mean,
No.
Okay.
I agree with you that we think. So let's pick one. How about love? Are we good with that?
Okay.
Okay. I agree that I have love and that I experience love, that I love people. How can I know that I'm experiencing that after God?
Because it's something that's innate within you. Like
that doesn't.
Then it's innate to
answer the
Matt. Then that would mean, if it's innate to Matt, then why would you think it was something from a God if you think it's innate to him?
Well, I'm saying it's universal. It's within every human being.
Right, because we're social animals.
Sure.
Right.
You've now successfully described humans. I'm asking what makes you think that these are indicative of a God, that we're getting it from a God, that we're thinking this after God. You came in with a really nifty kind of footprints style of message, and I'm asking, that's what you believe. Why would we believe it?
Well, it's just, let's see. So I start with that point with, we think, all these are derivatives of God. And
you can't start with that point. That's the That's
what we're trying to establish.
How do you get to that point that you think these things are derived from a God?
And you can't.
Saying that every human being in the world, like this is a global, like universal.
First of all, that's not true. But basically,
well, you don't think these are all like? But I'm saying these aren't all.
You don't think there are people that don't experience love? People with particular psychopathies that are abnormal that don't experience. So I'm just saying it's not necessarily ubiquitous. But even to the extent that it's ubiquitous, if every human being experienced love,
that would be a human attribute.
That's a human attribute. How do you tie that to God?
Okay. Well, I mean, that's. I don't. I guess I can't.
Yeah, I would think that your line of reasoning here, and I'm just going to guess from many years of doing this, is I have no other explanation for why all human beings would experience love, except that this is what God wants us to experience.
He's asking.
Is that close to how your thoughts went?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at, like, okay, justice, order. Like, why do we have these desires within?
Because we have empathy and we have to share space with other people.
Well, we're social too. I mean, if we weren't a social species, if we were more like, foxes or snakes, we would probably experience this to a much lesser degree. But as a social species, we experience these things like most other social species experience them.
Okay.
So I have to sit here and I have to share space with Tracy. And believe me, it's not a have to. Tracy's my favorite person on the show. So this is one of my favorite weeks ever. But Tracy and I have to share space. And so even if we don't fully understand the motivations, there are entirely pragmatic, secular justifications for the how and why we interact. There's the game theory questions where we're trying to study this stuff and the prisoner dilemmas and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, even if I was completely selfish, the selfish thing for me to care about is to make a world that benefits me. And it benefits me to encourage cooperation, to encourage these sorts of emotional things, to encourage a sense of justice, to encourage the forgiveness that we talked about, to discourage revenge. Those things, there are pragmatic justifications for them. But even if we had no known justification, what justification would we ever have for saying these are necessarily or even likely the result of a God?
Well, why are all these equal to a positive outcome? Like,
because that's the goal?
I guess that's what I'm trying to express here is like, why do these equal something that's like by you seeking out justice, by you trying to get along well with her?
Yeah.
Well, I guess. I mean,
that's the goal.
Well, what he's explaining is that number one, even if he wasn't motivated, it would be self-serving, right? Like it's still self-serving, even if he doesn't want to do it. He sees the benefit to doing it.
Right.
But what I'm saying,
explaining, we're talking about something within, like, so if the world has certain, like, it's like a video game, like, oh, there's certain.
Oh my God! Half the people who call this show don't even know what the fuck they be trying to say.
I do. Just like seeking justice, love, equal to like a positive outcome. Does that make sense?
What you're calling a positive outcome is surviving and thriving. And if animals didn't want to survive and thrive, they probably wouldn't have made it this far on the planet by now, right? An animal that doesn't want to survive and doesn't show any propensity toward thriving.
Right, but you're still explaining something. I'm trying to.
You're looking at the outcomes of the successes of evolution so far.
See, if you list the things that benefit us,
and then say why do they benefit us?
A sense of justice benefits us, and you're saying why does a sense of justice benefit us? That's not even a why question. It's just a fact that this does in fact benefit us. Like you might as well be asking. You might as well be asking. Why does food make me feel good?
Why don't I eat poison instead of an apple? Right? Because I don't want to die. And because if I wanted to die, I would eat poison.
It's just a physical fact. It's a physical fact of the universe. An apple contributes to my well-being. Drinking battery acid does not. To say why that's the way it is.
But this isn't a human thing. This is an every species thing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they don't all do. I mean, all species are doing things that in some way benefit their survival, and if they can achieve it, they're thriving.
But even if we had no answer, how could you get to God from there?
Okay, well, I would take a step here and move forward to. Okay, so I've been studying the near-death experience type stuff, and it's a lot to get into, but I just have some points here I want to touch on. So. The fact that somebody is floating out of their body, they're able to recall situations with them.
No, you don't get to say it's a fact that somebody is floating out of their body. What you're talking about is reports. So when I ask you how you can get from these universal human emotions to a God, and you either acknowledge that you have no answer or you want to move on to near-death experiences. And then when we talk about near-death experiences, you start with the fact that someone is floating out of their body. That's not a fact.
Okay.
How do you demonstrate that?
Well,
You do realize that we've tested these sorts of things.
Okay, go ahead.
You do realize that we've tested these sorts of things, and we can test them. You know, like you put a note up on the top shelf in the operating room, and did anybody see the note? Did they read the note?
You're not able to recall, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Unsurprisingly.
All right.
But even if we knew that people couldn't leave their bodies as a fact, how the hell does that get you to a God? It doesn't. That's just something else that you need an explanation for.
If you let me just just the fact that, okay, there's multiple reports of somebody floating above their body. I mean, that could be, I guess it could be something to do with the brain. You know, we haven't.
Sure,
Good.
Yeah,
I've had that experience just in my own experience with sleep paralysis.
Yeah,
so I've had that experience of floating above
I've had the same thing.
a dying or drug-altered brain. I fail to see why anybody thinks that's going to give you a more accurate representation of reality. But here's the thing. There are countless reports of Indian gurus who survive on what they call prana. They claim that they eat nothing, that they just get energy from the sun. Lots of reports of that. Does that mean we have good reason to believe it's true?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, so the fact that they're floating, you know, somebody can see their body, they're calm, and then there's a light that they encounter. It kind of, and then you kind of go to the Mount of Transfiguration where Christ.
Oh my gosh.
Showed him.
You realize that not all these stories are remotely the same, right? And that these stories are being created by humans who already have these ideas. You might as well be saying that the propensity for people to describe an alien abduction as an almond-headed, almond-eyed creature is evidence that those are the aliens that are actually doing the abduction, instead of saying that these stories started after 2001: A Space Odyssey and after what people's notion of an alien changed to. Aliens used to be monsters and robots, and then they became kind of a norm, and that became the narrative for everybody. Okay. If you've been raised with religious ideology and the notion that you have a soul, and you go through this experience of nearly dying, and your brain is starved of oxygen, and then when you recover, you have to figure out what happened when you were seemingly out of it. Is it more likely that a brain invents a story that's consistent with their religious beliefs, or that those religious beliefs are true?
Well, I mean, it's something you have to investigate, you know, before you.
It's also really easy, because people with the same religious beliefs don't even necessarily have the same experience.
But they typically, like, I've not heard of anybody. They usually encounter beings like human form. They don't see like an animal come to them, or, you know, like a.
I heard a panel on near-death experiences where one woman just had the experience of like flying over a landscape. She didn't have beings.
Right. Well, I mean, that could be something that just, you know, but the fact that there's a consciousness and they're able to recall.
Well, now wait, you were assuming they recall it, right? This is what they're saying they remember after they wake up. Now, we don't know that their memory at this point of what actually did or didn't go on while they were unconscious is accurate, correct?
But we do know that memory is malleable and flawed, and we invent fictions all the time. We lie to ourselves all the time about what we experience and what we remember. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been studying it a little bit, and there have been some reports that are kind of like off from what is typically reported.
It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if everybody reported the exact same thing. If every human being who had nearly died and been resuscitated reported almost word for word the exact same thing. I floated up out of my body. A bunch of naked pixies surrounded my head and told me that I was bound for a wonderful place, and then you drew me back here. Does that mean we have good reason to believe that they were actually bound for a wonderful place?
Well, I mean, what else is going to convince you that, I mean...
Evidence that is good?
Okay.
I mean...
So you're saying if everybody on this planet, and they reported the same exact thing, that we were talking about floating, the naked pixies or whatever.
Yes. You know why?
I wouldn't think that there was. Why that?
Because it's not telling me about what is with respect to pixies in another universe. It's telling me what people say and portray about their experience.
Yeah, they don't even have good reason to think that what they experienced was accurate, was like a literal accurate
It is an unfalsifiable proposition. The fact that human beings have similar experiences and relay those experiences in a particular way does not mean that those experiences point to a truth.
Yeah, if I dream that I have a dead relative, if I dream that I have a dead relative that comes to me and talks to me one night, right, in a dream, and I wake up the next day, I have no way to differentiate they actually came to me in some way and spoke to me in an unconscious state versus I dreamed that they came and spoke to me while I was asleep. There's no way that even I, as the person who had the experience, would know that the difference.
And there's certainly no way that I, as someone who didn't have the experience, could do it. So I certainly couldn't believe, based on Tracy's report.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to believe it. Like, I would have to say, I don't know.
This would be my defense for near death. So if ends up with so the fact that they come across a light, they have a sense of love and peace, which I feel is God's nature. Okay.
How do you know that?
Said I feel it.
You know,
Why should we care or believe what the Bible says? Why should we care or believe what the Bible says?
well, you just said like, well, you were just asking a question. I'm trying to respond by saying.
No. Here's the problem. You completely missed the 2001 analogy. The fact that people have experiences that are consistent with the Bible is irrelevant if they understood what the Bible was saying. If they had exposure to what the Bible says, it's trivial that they would have experiences or report experiences that were consistent with the Bible. Just like if they are aware of how culture has changed with regard to aliens because of 2001, Close Encounters of the Third Kind is probably what I should have said. Close Encounters would be the one that fundamentally changed this. What you're doing is saying, yeah, but all these people are reporting these same types of aliens. And I'm asking you, okay, but you don't have any reason to think that those alien experiences are accurate just because they're consistent. And then you're saying, yes, but they're also consistent with Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Which all these people saw.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I was just.
It corrupts your subject pool.
Well, what I'm trying to do is, from the majority of these experiences that these people experience, I feel line up with God.
Yeah, and the majority of alien experiences line up with Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I know, but God revealed himself through Christ. And that.
Okay.
And Close Encounters reveals itself through a film that was produced.
But also saying God reveals himself through Christ is absurd. There is no Christ. There is nobody for you to talk to. And by the way, in the same way that Tracy's dead grandmother can't reveal herself through Tracy to me, God can't reveal himself through another person to you. But you're also making mountains of assumptions when you say God reveals himself through Christ, because you're starting with the belief that the Bible is true and accurate and it's a representation of what God thinks and what God wants and this Jesus story and all this other stuff. You are biasing all of your thoughts by beginning with the conclusion that you have a narrative that's believable. And the question is, why should anybody believe that narrative?
Okay. Well, with my starting, you're saying the footprints, we're thinking God's thoughts after him, love, justice, peace, order. All these are kind of derivatives of his nature that have been passed to us. And you said
it was vengeance and anger.
Species. Yeah, those are also,
It's amazing that God is really like people, right? Isn't it possible that people are just attributing their natures to God? Isn't it possible that people are making up gods that just happen to be a lot like themselves?
And even before you answer, because you're adopting a Christian model, do you think that all those other religions, people invented gods that were just like them? Or are all those other gods real too?
There's stronger evidence for Christ because,
That doesn't remotely come close to answering the question about whether or not you think all those other people made up gods that were like them. Remotely come close to answering the question either.
Well, you think about Allah is...
And this doesn't come remotely. Can you answer the question?
Okay, well, maybe I'm not understanding the question.
Do you think that all of the gods that you don't believe in were invented fictions of people creating a god?
Like Zeus, Thor?
Holy crap, all of them. How many do you not believe in? I apologize. Let me back up.
Okay.
Because I've made this question as simple as possible, but your religious beliefs are preventing you from answering honestly because you're afraid that there's some trap that's going to expose a flaw in your thinking. That's what's going on right now. You believe in Jesus. You believe in the biblical Jesus, right?
Yes.
You don't believe in other gods. You don't believe in the God of Islam or the gods of Hinduism or the gods of any of the other religions ever. You don't believe in any of those, right?
Answer the question.
Logical, yes, God, but Allah, Jehovah, that is, I follow.
He's saying those are the same God in his head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm saying like they're just interpreting their view of that same God in a different way, but it's
okay.
You know,
that will sidetrack
Okay, go ahead.
that'll sidetrack us into how do you know your way of interpretation is right. But
Right.
So let's just go with Zeus.
Okay.
Think Zeus is an invented
He's
fiction?
not real.
Okay. Oh, you'll go further. You think he's just not real?
Correct.
Okay. If we know people can invent gods, and we know people have invented gods, or at least you are convinced that people invented gods, how is it that you exclude yours?
Got him.
I think there's a stronger evidence for Christ. I mean, he revealed himself. That's the difference. There we go. That's my answer.
Okay. You realize that answer says absolutely nothing because you say there's stronger evidence, but you didn't present any evidence. And then you say he revealed himself, which is absurd.
Well, he came down. And
How do you know that? How do you know that? Were you there?
Took a step of faith. I wasn't there.
Why would you take a step of faith? Is there any religion that I couldn't believe if I just took a step of faith?
They can't answer the questions. That's the only thing. Like, if you really know your religion, if you really believe your God, prove it. But then when you ask these questions over and over, they don't have no
Okay,
answers.
so you're telling me that you don't believe Jesus ever existed?
I'm not convinced that Jesus existed. I'm also not convinced that he didn't exist. I'm definitely not convinced that if Jesus existed, that he was in fact divine.
Even the Jews say Jesus wasn't divine.
Well,
But
I mean, I
Christians
just
still
feel like
believe it.
he came down, he died, he
came down and he died
for humanity.
He came down and he died.
Right.
How do you know he came down? And where did he come down from?
He came from heaven.
How do you know that?
He's always existed.
How do you know that?
Go back to Genesis.
How do you know that? Genesis doesn't mention Jesus. And Genesis is irrelevant because you don't get to cite Genesis as if it's evidence for something.
Okay.
This says a lot of things.
That's what I respond is, he came down, he died.
I understand what you believe. I'm asking why you believe it.
Because it's in the Bible.
Okay.
Why do you believe the Bible?
The Bible is New Testament talks about that. I know what you're going to say is like, why should I have any reason to believe that document is true?
Correct.
Why can't I think some other document like, the Great Gatsby?
No. I don't care about a document. I don't care about other documents.
Okay.
I'm asking why I should believe this one is accurate.
You don't have a reason. You can't justify it.
Okay, well, Christianity is spread worldwide. I believe it's the largest religion.
Murder.
Yep. largest or second largest, depending on how the numbers work out, but that has no...
Right.
The truth of an idea isn't impacted by how many people believe it, how long it's been around, or anything else. So you can't go with which one's older, you'd have to be Jewish. You can't go with which one's larger, you'd probably be Muslim, or potentially, depending on how the numbers work. But it just doesn't make any sense.
If you went with oldest, you'd probably be Hindu.
Yeah, well...
Right. Well, I'm not going to go with personal experience because I know how that goes. Okay?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Okay.
I've been doing this seemingly for ages, and all I want to know is, why should I believe that the Bible is telling me the truth about what actually happened and what is?
Because it's the Bible.
So I would say, of Christ, the fact that Christianity is the strongest consensus of humans on the earth believe in that.
So because it's popular, you're saying because it's popular, because a lot of people believe it, I should believe it too.
Okay.
That's what you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if this person came down and they were not legitimate, just like somebody else who pops up and creates a cult, do you think that person is going to be able to create a following?
You mean like Muhammad?
Jesus Christ.
You mean like Muhammad?
he did, but...
So it's possible then. It's possible to get billions of believers centuries afterwards, even if you're a fraud.
But
Okay.
So...
Well, I'm just saying, like, that would be how I would respond. Like, the strongest consensus of people believe in that faith.
And yet you acknowledge that you just acknowledge that that's not a way to tell whether something is true, and yet you come back to it.
Okay.
The number of people believe something.
I'm not going to be able to tell you.
The number of people who believe
He's
something.
going to come meet you at your house today.
Has he ever come met you at your house?
He has not.
And do you know of anybody who's ever had him come and meet him at their house?
Well, that's okay. And I'm not trying to be condescending, but that's what the Jews said to him when he was on the cross. Come down off the cross.
And come to my house and prove that you're real? I'm pretty sure if he's sitting there on the cross, I don't have a question about whether he's real. I have a question about whether he's divine.
There was, they asking the same question that you have right now.
Let me leave you with this because we're like 25 minutes over time. If you go through and you read the story, Jesus was tempted, right, by Satan.
Okay.
In the Bible that you believe. Okay. So Jesus is tempted. What were those temptations?
Food, power. What else? I know that the one was like cast yourself down and then have angels catch you.
Let's go with the easy one. Jesus is God, right?
Right.
Knows what God knows because he's God. And he's existed forever because he's God.
Okay.
And he knows what's going to happen later, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, Satan, I'm assuming you think that he was real and the temptation was real. Satan...
I do believe, yes, he's real.
Sure. So Satan has been in God's presence and knows that God is real.
Right.
And Satan knows that God is all-powerful and is the ruler of everything, correct?
Correct.
If I walked into your apartment or your house, have you got a big screen TV?
Yes, I do.
Cool. And I said to you, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you that big screen TV. What would you say?
I'd tell you to get out.
Wouldn't you say it's already mine? How stupid is it for Satan to tempt Jesus with what is already his?
Well, I know, but doesn't it say that...
how can it be a temptation?
Power over to Satan? I think he's given power over to him, that God is Satan is the God of this age, I believe is...
What does Jesus care about all the lands that he surveys and ruling them if he's God and rules the fucking universe?
We got an hour and a half? Damn, 15 more minutes. Who's that? Bo?
Problem here. If I walk into your house and offer you your own TV, The correct response is to point out how absurd it is for me to try to tempt you with something that is already yours. Not only is it an absurd thing to do, but both of the entities involved, both Jesus and Satan,
I missed some of
would
your
have
comments.
already realized how absurd.
Yeah, if y'all still in here, yo, Bo, go to my Instagram, man. If you like the art, bro, go check out some stuff that's already done. Some of my nice shit. I ain't got a lot of good shit up here. All my other stuff is downstairs. And Pixel Cop. That's the whole thing about this religious thing, yo. Like, and that's why I really like Matt Dillahunty, yo. All he asks is questions, and he says, "I don't know. Y'all think y'all got the answers? Well, prove it to me, cause I don't know shit." And every theist who calls in there with all this stuff, all they do is ask them questions. How do you know it's true? Why do you believe the Bible? Oh, because it's been around for thousands of years, and a lot of people believe it. Well, Islam's been around for thousands of years, and a lot of people believe that too. So why don't you believe Islam instead of Christianity or Hinduism or Buddhism? Because that's been around for a long time, and people still believe it. But they can never answer these questions, yo. And that's the thing with Matt, yo. He make you think. He'll ask simple questions and make the callers think. And when they think hard enough and realize, you know what? I don't have an answer for that. And then their whole fucking world is fucked up. And they get scared. And it's like, it's not scary out here without the Bible. Trust me. You'll be all right if you put the Bible down. There's tons of other books you can read. But this caller, like, he's so mentally blocked. Like most of them, they're just blocked and believe in this one ancient myth. And, that all of this stuff in this old book is really fucking true.
This was. Is obviously fiction. That part of the story is unequivocally fiction. Sure.
So Jesus came down and he was supposed to humble himself and be a perfect sacrifice for people, correct?
Wasn't he already perfect? Why would he have to be perfect?
Well, I'm saying, like, he had to maintain that perfection until he went and died on the cross.
Okay.
So a part of that would be having to humble himself, and, be strong and fulfill his mission.
How strong do you have to be to turn down someone offering something that's already yours? I don't think that takes strength.
Well,
offer me the money that's in my wallet. It doesn't take strength for me to laugh.
Right, but I think it was not only was he was humbling himself. I mean, he was setting like an example for human beings. Like,
wouldn't a better example to be like, what the hell is wrong with you offering me the stuff I already own?
Right.
Yeah, the story is absurd. Think about it some more. But we're like way over time.
We are.
DoorDash has the restaurants you crave at your fingertips.
All right. I'm about to get out of here in a few minutes, guys. That's what's up, yo. Let's see if we can find one more good clip before we roll out. Moral justification of abortion?
Brandon in Phoenix, how are you?
Matt, how are you?
It says here, can I mention what the call screener note was?
Yeah, go for it.
Brandon wants to present evidence of God and guarantees this will be the best show ever if his call is taken this time.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Best show ever.
We're in awe, man. Go for it.
Well,
I see the floor.
start by just kind of to stage things. Let me ask you if for example, I had buried $30 million worth of gold, and I approached you with a proposition that if you help me dig up this gold, which I've stamped to prove that it's my gold, it's got my name on it and all of that, and I guaranteed you that you were going to get 30% of the take for helping me dig it up, would you want me to draw up a contract to our agreement? Why would you want me to draw up a contract?
Because it has legal protection in the case that you try to screw me on the deal after.
So basically, I mean, in short, so that the story doesn't change after we dig up the gold, right?
I suppose you can phrase it that way, sure. But the real thing is that I'm not as concerned.
I can't come back and, I only told you 5%, not 30%.
Sure, yeah, okay, well, that's a version of the story. I'm just saying that I would do it because there's legal protection there to keep me from getting screwed.
Right. So,
but before I grab a shovel, you're going to have to actually demonstrate that the gold's real, because I'm just going to, basically I would
well, that was
probably
my
also...
point, is you have no idea if I actually buried anything, so you kind of have to take my word on faith.
No, because the contract...
I actually buried...
No, I don't have to take your word on faith for anything, because the contract would be written in such a way that if you have $30 million in gold, and you're going to give me 30% of it, well, let's just say $10 million to make the math easier. You got $30 million in gold. If I help you dig it up, I'm going to get $10 million in gold. What's going to happen is you're going to guarantee me payment of $10 million for digging X amount, because I'm not just going to keep digging holes with you forever. There's going to be a description of what the actual job is and what the payment's going to be, and an agreement. It doesn't matter then whether or not you actually have gold, because I'm either getting my money or I'm going to take everything you've got, suing you afterwards for breach of contract. And now I don't have to believe your story.
You're a smart business guy, and I mean, I would like to state that, intellectually, I think you absolutely dwarf me. If
well,
you and I
that doesn't matter.
I think you would absolutely have a higher IQ than I do. So, but
I don't care about IQ.
The one thing I've got on my side is actual wisdom, being in the truth.
And see, I would say that wisdom.
Conversation.
I would say that wisdom is exactly the sort of thing that would make you design the sort of contract that I'm doing, because wisdom is about lessons learned and having an understanding of reality. That would be wisdom. IQ doesn't matter. You could have 80 points lower IQ than me, but if you've learned the lesson about how to not get screwed, you can still write the same contract. So I would say that is wisdom. Wouldn't you say it's a wise contract?
Contract is simply that, we put things in writing so that the words can't change. So that's, kind of why, the Old Testament and the New Testament is also referred to as the Old Covenant and the New Covenant.
Yeah, it's curious. It's curious that
why.
Go ahead.
The God that I'm trying to prove, why He put everything in writing, is so that the story can't change.
How do you know God put everything in writing?
And why did He need to amend it?
Or the purpose of amending it is, ultimately in the Old Testament, He told the Jews that I bring you a curse this day, that the law is a curse to them. So, and this is also why Jesus said salvation comes through the Jews. He's going to use these people who, whipped Moses out of Egypt.
Can we stop preaching and move to the proof of God?
We complete. So first of all, you're supposed to be presenting proof of God, and second of all, this notion of we write things down so that it can't change. That's separate. But
well, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna circle back around to that. So, but
I guarantee you're going to do a lot of circling, because it's already you're beginning with essentially a circular argument that we need to rely on the Bible. Because it is the words that were written down so it couldn't change. And yet the issue is, how do you know that anything in the Bible is true and accurate with respect to what you're going to claim about God?
Well, let me start here as far as, over 75% of all scholars and historians can agree that Jesus of Nazareth was a real person.
Well, okay, so first of all, 93% of all statistics are pulled right out of somebody's ass at the time that they need to use them. But the percentage of people who believe that Jesus was real is irrelevant to whether or not he was real. And even if everybody believed that Jesus was a real person, that doesn't mean that we have evidence that he was divine or God. I believe there were lots of real people.
I agree. I mean, as far as
Okay.
that's not proof yet. That
So everything you said is irrelevant to the point of demonstrating that God exists. That's my point.
Okay, well, I mean, and we do know that he was crucified.
Well, we know that the Bible claims that he was crucified. It's not like we have any evidence of a crucifixion outside of the Bible.
Well,
we don't even have any evidence.
Modern scholars
we don't
agree.
I don't. Brandon. Oh my God. No, we don't. No, we don't. And modern scholars don't actually agree on that. What they agree is there are stories about this. The truth is we have no contemporary accounts of any event from Jesus' life at all, which is why there are some people who think this is entirely a myth. I'm not making that argument. But if you're just going to come on here and say, oh, 75% of scholars agree that he was a person, and most modern scholars agree that he was crucified, none of that matters. Because let me just concede, for the sake of this argument, Brandon, let's just assume I believe Jesus existed and was crucified.
Okay.
I don't actually believe that's the case.
Your debate that you did between Bart Ehrman and Bob Price. So, I mean,
I wasn't involved in that. They had the debate. I'm saying for the purposes of this discussion right here, let's just pretend that I believe that Jesus existed and that he was crucified. Neither of those neither of those have any relevance, any bearing on whether or not there's a God.
Well, I mean, but he claimed that he was God, and that's why he was crucified.
Okay,
I agree.
Brandon, were there other people who were killed for heresy? Were there other people who went around claiming they were God? Okay, so were those people God?
No.
Okay, so doesn't that mean this is irrelevant, that somebody claimed they were God and were killed for it?
Well, I mean, I'm getting to that because, see, I mean, God did something very...
You've got to get to it a lot better than just starting... You've got to get to this a lot better than just starting with a parade of things that are relevant. What is the proof,
the
evidence that God exists?
That he did, the proof that he provided us to prove his claim that he was God is, number one, prophecy in the Bible. And then number two is the fact that, the works that he did, the miracles that he did that convinced all of these other people that, this is, not a normal person can't do these things. A normal
I agree. I agree. Now, please demonstrate that he actually did any of the things that are reported.
Well, I mean, if you, I'm just going to give you the elevator version.
Why don't you give us the best one? Why don't you give us evidence? Because it says here that you're going to present evidence, and you presented nothing but claims. So present evidence. Do you even know what evidence is?
Yeah, let me get there. As far as, we do know the scholars...
Why you got to take this long-ass walk to get to the evidence? Let me get there. I'm getting there.
In 606 BC. That's when that book was written. And in this, it was given the prophecy that the Messiah, Jesus, was going to come and enter into the streets of Jerusalem.
That's false.
In exactly 483 years.
Brandon, that's false. It doesn't say Jesus in Daniel.
Well, it says the Messiah.
Okay, but you said the Messiah, Jesus. You are dishonestly injecting Jesus into a potential prophecy here because you've already concluded that he does this. But if a book says our future Messiah will do this, does that mean that later on, if somebody does that they are in fact the Messiah?
As far as, it's pretty accurate as far...
No, that's not what I'm asking.
Daniel.
I'm not asking. So here's a statement. Somebody makes a statement about a future event. If later on that future event comes true, what does that tell us about the prophecy?
That the prophet was absolutely true in what he was saying.
It tells us that they said something which came true, but does that mean that the prophet actually predicted this? Did they knowingly set up a scenario that they knew was going to happen?
Well, in the book of Daniel, the angel Gabriel came to Daniel and said, in 483 years, the Messiah is going to walk through the gates of Jerusalem and will be recognized as the Messiah. And then, and that's exactly 173,880 days.
So let's say
the day Jesus entered into Jerusalem.
So let's say Jesus Christ. Let's say that 3 days before Jesus entered Jerusalem, assuming that's actually what happened, did somebody have access to the book of Daniel at that time?
Absolutely, the Jewish people. They're
Yeah.
historians. That's why God used them.
So if I go in to a restaurant and I order a steak medium rare, and I get a steak that's medium rare, have I made a prediction and the waiter fulfilled prophecy?
Well, I mean, that's a prediction. That's something, you know.
Prophecy is a
and
prediction.
Prediction are two different things.
No, they're not.
Things that are different.
No, they're
are
not.
the same.
They're not the prophecy and prediction are synonyms. You are saying this is going to happen in the future, and then it happens.
We're talking many, many years in the future. Though.
What difference does that make?
The person that made the prediction died before the thing ever.
I'll tell you exactly what difference it makes. It means that there were 683 years for people to actively work towards that goal, knowing it was going to happen. If I say 1 year from today, somebody is going to give birth to a child, and they are going to name it Matt is Awesome. And a year to the day from now, somebody actually names their kid Matt is Awesome. Was that prophecy being fulfilled? Or was that somebody saying, hey...
The prophecy said that he would be called Emmanuel. They gave him the prophecy gave him Jesus.
Yeah, not Jesus, right? Not Jesus. In the New Testament, he's not referred to as Emmanuel.
No. The meaning of Emmanuel is God with us. To another way to prove that Jesus is God as he claimed. That's what he said. That's why they killed him.
We have a number of big problems here. One is that you believe everything in the Bible.
Well, let me just say this. As far as I believe that the King James Bible is the only real Bible that fulfilled the prophecy given in Psalms 12.
And I'm assuming you're talking about I'm assuming
in the trash.
I'm assuming you're talking about the 1611 AV version only, right?
The standard authorized Cambridge edition Bible.
That's the standard authorized Cambridge edition may not be the exact same thing as the 1611 authorized version. Is it?
Well, I mean, that's the real Bible.
Get your story straight.
You can take all the other Bibles and trash them.
Sure, even the Bibles that was based on, that the interpretations came out of, even the Masoretic text and the Septuagint, you can chuck those in the trash.
Well, see.
What about the Dead Sea Scrolls? What about the Dead Sea? What about the Dead Sea Scrolls? You're gonna chuck those in the trash too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As far as this is where.
So Brandon, we're done. Brandon, you're a cartoon man. Brandon, we're done. You have a ridiculous position. No, I'm not holding on. You're holding on. You're on hold right now. I might bring you back. I might not. In 11, a new version of the Bible was translated from a number of different texts, and your thing is, we can toss out all those things that it was based on and just go with this one, as if the Lord himself spoke English. As if these people who translated it have even a fraction of the understanding of the ancient languages and the context at the time as modern scholars do. That makes no sense. This is you not just cherry-picking from the Bible, but cherry-picking the Bible.
Well, I don't mean to. I'm not trying to cherry pick. I understand your point, and it's a good point. I'm just saying that, I mean, obviously, if God is God, then he's capable of speaking any language that he wants to.
Sure. Isn't he also capable of revealing himself to all of us right now?
He has. This is the point. This is where I'm.
No, he hasn't. God has never revealed himself to me. I can say that with confidence.
Or me.
Well, he's not going to physically reveal himself to you.
Can he not do that?
Because of our nature versus...
Can he do that? Can he do it or not?
Without destroying you, no.
Then how did he reveal himself to anybody else? How did he explain the Damascus Road experience? Isn't that a revelation directly to Saul?
Absolutely. And
it didn't destroy him, did it?
This is,
did it destroy him?
Those are chosen vessels, and
did
also has a specific...
Okay, look, oh my God, you're just making all kinds of excuses. I said, can God do this? And you said, not without destroying you. And then I pull up an example where you have to believe, because it's in your book, that God revealed himself to somebody without destroying. And now you come up with a post hoc rationalization that he was a chosen vessel. Can God make me a chosen vessel?
Of course, I think he has.
Why hasn't he?
If you actually...
Wait, well then we're back. No. Because now you just said that you think God has made me a chosen vessel, but you said that God couldn't reveal himself to destroy without destroying me. And then when I asked what it would take, I said, why could it happen to Saul? And you said because he was a chosen vessel. So if I'm a chosen vessel, then clearly God can reveal himself to me without destroying me, right? So the answer to my original question was yes, he can.
Yes, sure, of course. I mean,
And yet he hasn't.
If you were to be an apostle, which their job is, their function has already been served, it's done.
So apostles have to believe before the revelation?
Oh, I mean, but see,
okay, so then
apostles are different from prophets.
No, Brandon.
As far as
Brandon,
they set down
Brandon,
prophets.
Shut up. Following this, you've said I'm a vessel, and that God can reveal Himself to me, and then.
Nobody arguments can hold up, yo. Nobody. They're done. All of them are done. All right. I'll probably go eat some dinner and I don't know, watch a movie or play some video games or something. I'll catch y'all guys next time. I sure appreciate everybody stopping by the stream, chilling with me, listening to some debates. We listened to some good original music earlier. Thanks for all the wonderful comments and compliments and a couple of new followers to the PlayStation stream. Definitely, if you're not on my social media, check out my Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and Twitter. All of them have the same title, Paintings by the Prince, so y'all can follow all my art and keep up with all the new projects and everything I'm working on. And with that being said, I hope everybody have a good evening. Peace. Until next time.